Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs, the leader in streaming stories of entrepreneurship during this changing economy. My name is Jeffrey Davis. I am CEO of MAGE LLC, management consulting firm, and we will continue to do that as time goes on. Our next guest is Vin Dicianni and Affiliated Monitors, Inc. Welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
Thank you very much. Do me a favor, Vin. Tell me about Affiliated Monitors, Inc.
Sure. So, little background. I'm an attorney by profession. Practiced for many, many years in Massachusetts, starting with the Attorney General's office, then in private practice. Created Affiliated Monitors at around 2004 to help companies when they, if I could put it this way, get in trouble with a government agency. And what we do is we provide independent oversight of corrective action plans, of ways of fixing whatever got them in trouble, and reporting back to the government. So it's sort of like a civil probation, if I could put it that way. And it is used by a lot of government agencies, federal, state, municipal, county, international agencies, are using independent monitoring as a alternative sanction to a more severe form of sanction, like a loss of a license or, getting a contract taken away from a company. Company does something wrong, again, rather than knocking them out of the business, it allows the company to fix things. We're the ones that oversee those fixes to make sure that they're real, to make sure that the commitment towards transparency and compliance are effective. And we report back to the government. So that's what Affiliated Monitors is and does, in a short way of putting it.
Well, I'm going to continue to inquire into a couple of things you said so that I'm more specific in understanding what you do.
Sure.
Can you give us 2 or 3 examples of problems that you could experience so we can get it a little bit more concrete?
Sure. So let's say you are a government contractor and you are working in the construction industry and you've gotten in trouble because of procurement fraud issues, billing issues like you're billing under the wrong line item in a government contract, using improper materials, just doing things that are not necessarily criminal nor going to reach the level of a civil lawsuit, but are deficiencies that the government could say, we don't like what you're doing, and we're threatening that contract. We're going to pull it, or we're going to pull the ability to work on contracts in the future. Fix things. Companies often don't know how to fix things. They're good at building things, but they're not necessarily good at business. They're not good at compliance. And so oftentimes that's where the monitor comes in. That's where the monitor will fix things or help the company fix things, and then watch over time whether or not those fixes are real and effective. And so give you a couple of examples. Construction. We have monitored, you've heard of the Big Dig in Massachusetts.
I think everybody has.
Exactly. We monitored a couple of companies that got in trouble for what I would call false claims, billing under wrong line items, that kind of thing. And again, these were good builders, really quality companies, just didn't have good controls in place. So we had to monitor them. In the healthcare space, we monitor a lot of doctors who prescribe pain medications, overprescribe them, get in trouble. You read about it in the paper because of all these opioid, addiction issues. We monitor them for the board to make sure that their controls are in place, that they've got a way of regulating who they're giving to prescriptions to, whether or not they're seeing drug-seeking behavior, whether or not there's a history of abuse. We help that. We work for the federal government, so we work with the Air Force and the Navy, contractors who have gotten in trouble because of fraud, waste, abuse, other things, and have to be overseen. That's the kind of work that we do.
So again, sort of moving to the other end of what you do, can you give us a couple examples of how you oversee the fixes? What kind of involvement you do in that?
Sure. So a lot of times the fixes have to do with internal controls that a company should have in place. For example, third-party relationships, okay? So you're a builder and you're going to hire a steel company. Do you know who that steel company is? Do you know if they have had issues in the past? Do you know if they've got a compliance program? Do you know if the people that work for them are illegal immigrants, or if they are buying steel from another country that, is on the terrorist watch list? All of those kinds of controls are things that the company is supposed to have in place. Most of them don't, and we have to help them put them in place. Or if they have them in place, they're not really following them, right? So that's what the monitor does. We want to make sure that the things that the company got in trouble for are fixed in a way that can move forward effectively, so that these are real fixes as opposed to just patchwork kinds of adjustments.
So is this your first entrepreneurial venture?
It is. I always say this. I'm a defense attorney. I represented companies in situations that I've been describing my entire legal career. When I came up with this notion of creating affiliated back in the early 2000s, it was not a reality. As my kids say, it wasn't a thing. So there weren't agencies that were using monitoring as an alternative. So we've sort of been very much at the forefront of creating this oversight process, and then bringing it to government agencies to say, this is actually a good alternative. It's the use of a private company to do your oversight that they can't afford to do it. A government agency just doesn't have the wherewithal to go into a company on a regular basis to see that they have got a good third-party program or are hiring the right people. So they can outsource it to a company like Affiliated. Our services, believe it or not, are paid for by the companies we are monitoring. So we are a free service to the government. So it was a unique idea, and it has worked. I mean, we've been doing it for 16 years. We've done about 800 of these now. So it's something that has sort of had a foothold and is now expanding. And I wanted to mention a little bit about the COVID and the funding, the PPP funding, because that's an area that we think, and you're hearing and you're reading about, a lot of fraud, waste, abuse of those funds. And there's going to be a lot of, I think, inquiry by government agencies as to whether or not those funds have been appropriately received and or used. And so what's going to happen, and we're starting to see it already, there's a lot of fraud in the procurement of those funds and in how they're being used. A lot of those companies are either going to have to put in good controls or are going to have to be overseen by a monitor to make sure that they have addressed, the deficiencies that are going to be or have been already identified.
Is that even for the smaller loans?
Absolutely. I don't know that there's going to be that much scrutiny on those companies as there are for the bigger loans, but those companies, if they are working with the government agencies, and if there's a whiff of fraud, and you always have to wonder about whistleblowers within the company, you have to worry about public scrutiny locally, because that's much more active today. There's more eyes on companies now than ever before. So having your ducks lined up and having good controls in place and making sure that you've documented, what you had to document in terms of the receipt and or the use of those funds is still going to have scrutiny, maybe not to the extent of the big loans, but it's still going to be, subject to government oversight.
Well, we've been speaking with Vin Dicianni, president of Affiliated Monitors, Inc., an innovative company for our listening audience. Vin, if somebody was looking for the company, Affiliated Monitors, how would they find you?
Sure. So we are all over the web. We have created a brand. It's www.affiliatedmonitors.com. Again, my name is Vin Dicianni. We have a great group of people. You can find us on LinkedIn. We're doing a webinar today on antitrust, because the work that we do runs across agencies, across industries, and there's no matter too big or too small where some independent oversight, some help up front could be very valuable to a company.
Great. Thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for affiliating with Radio Entrepreneurs, connecting with our LinkedIn and all our social sites. We look forward to, having you on again and hearing more about the company. Remind
Thanks so
everybody
much.
this is Radio Entrepreneurs. Thank you.